Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. You know I buy a lot of music throughout the year and I show it in my haul videos, but it's not until I listen to albums a lot, typically around 5 times minimum, that I decide to officially keep them. And then they go in my database and they go into the archives downstairs. I estimate about 30% of the purchases I make never make it there. So this video and this series that I do, which I call From Backlog to Catalog, is the graduation date. That's when these albums have been listened to enough where they go from the backlog officially into my collection. Without further ado, let's do it in no particular order. I haven't done one of these videos since I guess the beginning of December, so it's been a while, and I'm happy to say I have slowed down my purchasing a lot, so this stuff is really backlog stuff, and it felt great going through some of the backlog. I had about 300, I estimate, albums down there that I hadn't gotten to yet, and a good portion of it I'm getting rid of, and these are the ones that made it. So without further ado, let's do it in no particular order. This was a fun one. This was a bootleg that I got. The J. Giles Band live at Great Gildersleeves. If you're from the New York area, Great Gildersleeves was a club in New York City, and the J. Giles Band did a show at that club, which they broadcast live on the radio, and that's what this was. It was from the Sanctuary album, and that was a great time to be a big fan of J. Giles. They were on a roll with Love Stinks and Sanctuary, and it was before Freeze Frame, which actually wound up killing the band, unfortunately. Lowell George, I'm a big Little Feat fan. You're going to see Little Feat show up later. For whatever reason, I never had Thanks, I'll Eat It Here. It never had a good reputation, and I never bought it. And then I finally picked it up on CD, and man, gotta say I love the album. Thought it was great. So thank you to the viewers who were telling me, gotta get that solo record, and I was like, I never got it. And they were like, you're missing out. You are right. I thought it was terrific. It'd be a really strong Little Feat album if it was a Little Feat album. Thanks, I'll Eat It Here from Lowell George. You're going to see a bunch of jazz albums in here. I've been getting into jazz. This was an interesting one, and I really liked it. A band called Shadowfax. They were on Windham Hill, and in fact, that's what this album is. It's a collection of the best stuff from their Windham Hill years. And it's really good. It's jazzy, but it's also new agey. It's got, like, you know those flute sounds from Native American Indians that you always hear, or it's almost Celtic-like? Got a lot of that, and I loved it. Really good, relaxing, jazzy, good music. Elkie Brooks, I almost didn't make this one. I listened to it, I'm like, it's good. And then a couple of viewers said, nah, give him more of a chance, and I did. I played this thing about 5 times, and I liked it. It's a compilation called Elkie Brooks Gold and Blues, and she's really good. She was in Vinegar Joe for you deep rock and roll fans, but this was her solo stuff, and it's good. She does a cool version, by the way, of Stairway to Heaven, which is got to take balls, although she's a woman, but it takes guts to do that, and she pulls it off. Talk about jazz fusion, Brand X. Yeah, that is Phil Collins over there. This is an excellent CD, a history, 1976 to 1980. Phil Collins showing off his great drum chops, one of the all-time great rock drummers, I always felt, and he shows it off in that jazz fusion band Brand X, who I'm a fan of. Now, this was a surprising one to me, and it probably surprised a lot of you. I never had a Kraftwerk album, and I got this for like $1 sealed. Kraftwerk Autobahn, but this is a latter-day remastered version in beautiful packaging, and I'm like, the hell with it. It's about time I try it. I am not a big synth guy. But I loved it. I don't know. There's a reason why I guess it's a classic, and now I'm going to have to get Trans-Europe Express, which is their other big classic. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's really good. Cool. I was going to say background music, but I liked it. This one was supposed to be a terrible album. Chris Rea is a guy that I've really been getting into over the last couple of years, and this was a Japanese import I found of The Road to Hell Part 2, and it got terrible reviews. A lot of people were saying it's like his worst album. So I'm like, this is going to be a bummer for me. But I actually kind of liked it. I don't think it's nearly as good as the other Chris Rea albums I have. But, you know, it certainly was not nearly as bad as a lot of people were saying it was. and it's nowhere near as good as the first Road to Hell, which I have. But not a disaster that I didn't think so. Al Stewart, Last Days of the Century. I'm a fan of Al Stewart. I don't have all of his albums, but he's a continuing artist that I keep getting more and more into. This was a fine record, Last Days of the Century. I actually knew some of these tracks, Fields of France, Antarctica, Josephine Baker. It's a fine Al Stewart album for sure. Okay, talking about Little Feat. I am a fan of the latter day Little Feat. Now I'm also a big fan of the classic. But when they got back together, they actually had more commercial success than the original Little Feat to a certain extent. Then it kind of faded away. But I always kind of appreciated Little Feat just kept struggling on, and they changed their sound. They brought in Shawn Murphy, female singer. And a lot of those albums are really good, and they weren't overly successful. But that terrific band, even the latter day version. And this is one of those albums that you'll find anywhere for $1. I always see it there. Shake Me Up. And gets a terrible reputation. I don't know why. I never had this one because of the terrible reputation. Got to tell you, really liked it. And that's like $1 CD. You'll have no trouble finding that if you like Little Feat. Interesting one from David Bowie. This was the Buddha of Suburbia. As far as the original Bowie albums, I have all of them. Ever since he passed away, they're doing an incredible job of reissue after reissue. But this one was always one that I didn't have for some reason. And a lot of it is incidental type music. More for the collection. The Buddha of Suburbia from David Bowie. I'm a big fan of the Waterboys, and I don't have all their albums, but I'm getting most of them. And for whatever reason, Carl Wallinger, whose World Party... I just kind of focused on the Waterboys instead of World Party. And I have a couple of World Party albums, but this album was a big one. And this was, of course, Goodbye Jumbo. This is a promo edition of it. It's got that artwork kind of like Led Zeppelin 3. And, man, I forgot how good they were. I knew like half of these songs going into this. But this is great. And I'm going to have to get back into World Party and Carl Wallinger for sure. I've been picking up more and more Neil Young stuff. This was a great archive release he put out, Carnegie Hall, 1970. 2 CDs, and this is the Neil Young Archives, and it's just him acoustic, and totally keeps your attention over 2 full CDs. It's just classic Neil Young, great time of his musical life. Delaney and Bonnie I'm a big fan of, and 2 Delaney from Bonnie. This was a Japanese import I found. I think I now have all of their albums, I'm pretty sure. But I'm definitely a fan, and great stuff. That was a good find, that Japanese import. More and more jazz I'm getting into. Maynard Ferguson, MF Horn 2, and I love this one. Why? He's doing a lot of popular music, including John Lennon's Mother. I actually picked it up because the theme from Summer of 42 is, believe it or not, one of my favorite songs of all time. You talk about haunting melodies. Oh, my God. It doesn't get much better than that. This is great, and I am enjoying thoroughly my journey into jazz. Talk about Neil Young. Another archive release was Homegrown, and really nice release, and I picked this one up. And another fine archive release from Neil Young. A lot of these songs I knew from other releases, but really great to have the original album that never got released that he was going to release. Manic Street Preachers, I have a bunch of their stuffs in the backlog, and I decided to dig more into that. This was one called Gold Against Soul, and another fine release from them. I knew some of the songs going in from some of the other albums I have, compilations and things, but a fine album, and that was a good find. That was one of those imports that I find. I have a bunch more Manic Street Preachers that I got to get to. I have a ton of Status Quo in the backlog as well, and I got into 2 that I pulled out. One is a really early album, Mark Kelly's Greasy Spoon, and a lot of people from my previous Status Quo videos were like, you got to get that, and I finally picked it up, but it was in my backlog for a long time, and what a great cover. Covers don't get much better than that, right? That is a classic cover. This is a nice version of it. It's got a whole slew of bonus tracks. Gotta say, I didn't love this album. I think I prefer the latter day Status Quo more, but it was fine. I have my Status Quo stuff is getting big. I have a big amount of their albums. Speaking of which, I picked up this Status Quo album a long time ago. It's been in the backlog. And this was, again, supposed to be one of their worst albums. And sometimes I'm a bit of a contrarian. I'm like, well, if this is so bad, I got to check it out. And that's what I did with this one. It's called Perfect Remedy. Not the best cover, but it's okay. And call me crazy, but I really enjoyed this album. I'm like, why did people not like this album? And then I did a little research on it afterwards, because I always go into these things cold. I don't want to be influenced. And they're like, it's kind of popish, and it's got some country influences. Well, so what? I never understood that, like, that musical attitude, like it's a snotty attitude. Like, so what? So they tried to do some popish kind of material and maybe some countryish stuff. You know what? It's not easy writing a good pop song, and they're on that album. It's a fine album. It's not the best Status Quo album, but it's certainly no disaster, in my opinion. The Dixie Dregs, continuing with Fusion. This was a really cool find. I never heard of this one before. It's called California Screamin'. And this was a live record of the band reforming with previous members, and it was killer. I loved it. They got Dweezil Zappa pitching in on Peaches and Regalia, and they do Jessica, the Allman Brothers classic, and a bunch of their classics. Killer stuff, and they're another band that I have a lot of stuff in my backlog. And last but not least, almost, I picked this up fairly recently. The Best of Buddy Rich, the Pacific Jazz Years. This has the classic version of the medley of West Side Story. Doesn't get much better than that. And all I can say is, forgetting about just Buddy Rich's incredible drumming, the music is great. It's like big band jazz, and I loved it. I thought this was fantastic. The West Side Story stuff was, I was dying and go to heaven, because I loved that stuff. But yeah, it was terrific. And as far as I've said to people I'm a drummer, or I was a drummer, not when I hear Buddy Rich. I'm not worthy of saying I'm a drummer. That guy could do more on 2 fingers than I could do with my whole body. Just extraordinary. I had also picked up the Cat Stevens Super Deluxe Teaser in the Fire Cat. I had mentioned that I'm not the biggest Cat Stevens fan, but I like him a lot. But boy, did I love this box set. I played this box set to death, every single disc in there, and wonderful. Just a great box set. So there is, from backlog to catalog, about 20 albums that you can see that I just described. They have officially made it to the database and onto the shelves, and I'm proud to have them in my official collection. So I hope you enjoyed that. A couple of other things I want to mention. Not to be corny or anything like that, but the fact that people watch my channel and enjoy it just means so much to me. And the fact that on occasion, and I certainly would never ask for it, I've gotten some gifts. So again, I'm finally going to open this up. This was from Martin, and he had sent this around Christmas time. Now then, the very best of Richard Hawley. Now, Richard Hawley, I really don't know. I don't know any of his music. I actually thought he was in Pulp, but then I looked at my Pulp albums, and I don't see him listed. So I think he may have more just had like an association with Pulp, at least at some point in his career. And apparently overseas, he has a wonderful reputation and a big slew of solo records. I'm trying to open this, but I can't. But I am really excited to finally open this up, and there it goes. So let's unbox this thing. And this is 2 CDs. And now I am done for a little while going into the backlog, and I'm going to start listening to new stuff for me, and we're going to be doing Richard Hawley. So I am very excited about this, and thank you so much again for that incredibly generous gift from Martin. And then just a couple of days ago, I got this in the mail from Tom, another viewer from the beginning of the Alan Rosenberg Show, always contributes, and just a wonderful, generous guy. He has sent me gifts before. And he sent me Whitesnake Little Box of Snakes. Now this is 8 CDs, man. Unbelievable, Tom. This thing is all those early, 5 super early Whitesnake albums, plus an EP, and plus 2 live ones. I'm going to open this up now and unbox this, and I'll dig into this. So Whitesnake, I had said to Tom, I'm a moderate fan at best. I have like a 2 CD very best of that kind of does their whole catalog, and I have a latter-day greatest hits of the latter-day popular stuff, and then I got an early years, which I really enjoyed. That bluesier Whitesnake, David Coverdale stuff definitely appealed to me, and that's what this is, all of those early albums. So really generous, Tom. Thank you so much, and I am unboxing this. Let's see what this thing looks like. So you got a clamshell box, and we got a booklet here. It's called The Sunburst Years 1978 to 1982, and nice little booklet with liner notes in there. Looks like song lyrics even. Yeah, song lyrics. Very nice. And then we got these albums. We got David Coverdale's Whitesnake Snakebite. This is the EP. And you got Trouble, those great artwork, reproducing the original vinyl. This is cool. You got the Live at Hammersmith. And if you know my channel, you know I'm a huge live album guy. Album covers don't get much better than that, do they? That's Love Hunter. It's funny, I was looking for that on vinyl just for when I did my sexiest album covers. Ready and Willin'. Live in the Heart of the City. I actually have this one on CD. And Come and Get It, which I actually have as well. So this is really nice. And Saints and Sinners. So a beautiful collection and such a generous gift from Tom and from Martin. Thank you so much again. Again, I'm just lucky that people watching my channel and you enjoy it and you contribute. And one more thing that I do want to say, and I don't want to give anything away, but I got an amazing comment the other day from one of our viewers named Perry, who in particular is going through let's just say a challenge in his life right now. And he was just telling me that he enjoys watching my channel and it helps him get through what his challenge is. And it really choked me up, man. I was like, you know, that's just like a dream to me, to have like a channel and to be able to bond with people and for somebody to tell me that their channel means something to them when they're going through a particularly difficult time, man. I don't want to get emotional, but I am. But I can't tell you how much that touched me. So, Perry, I am thinking of you. And if any of you know Perry on the channel from his comments, just send your love and prayers to that fine person. And I'm sure, Perry, you are going to get through this. So, but I'm thinking of you. And anyway, as I'm going to start to cry. Thank you so much for watching my channel and subscribing and being a part of it. It means so much to me. As I always like to say, because I started this channel in COVID, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.